and it stayed in the New York Times bestseller list for 216 weeks. The one least likely to involve gunfire, because, you know, we're in the South. Hi, welcome to a new video. If you're new here, my name is Robbie, I am an aspiring writer, and on this channel I usually document my writing journey, trying to fit my writing in between my 9-to-5 job. However, sometimes I also speak about the books I read, and this vlog is a bit different because it will be half travel vlog, half reading vlog. Because I will speak about the book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Berendt, and it's setting in Savannah. So we are actually traveling to Savannah tomorrow, and as prep work we were gonna watch tonight the movie that was inspired by the book. I actually had never heard about it before planning to go to Savannah, but it's actually a super big deal in the US. It was published in 1994 and it stayed in the New York Times bestseller list for 216 weeks. This book is non-fiction and it's partly true crime, partly travel vlog, but really it's a love letter to Savannah. And Clint Eastwood in 1997 directed a movie based on this book that had an all-stellar cast with Kevin Spacey and a super young Jude Law. It was all filmed on location and it was shot in the house of the protagonist Jim Williams, which we also plan to visit on our trip to Savannah tomorrow. So yeah, let's get started with the movies and then I'll take you along on our trip as well.
Actually, no. Good for you. Sonny's overly protective of my interests. Well, then who'd walk Patrick?
He did shot somebody. Look at that man go. I believe I'm starting to like that Yankee. What's it saying? Curiosity killed the Yankee? I think that's it.
This was actually my fourth time coming to Savannah, and my friends and colleagues are making fun of me because I am absolutely obsessed with this city. The first time I came alone over a long weekend, then I took my mom here, a friend, and finally my partner. I am completely obsessed with Savannah because I've never seen anything like it. The city is so green, it's full of beautiful oak trees, and they have this Spanish moss falling from it, giving it a very gothic look. The city center is built over 23 squares and all of them are extremely green, so you feel like you're just walking around in a park the whole time, and for me it's like regenerative for the soul. Then being in the south, the food is delicious. The portions are huge, so that's something to keep in mind. Also, the city is, they say it's haunted because it was built over graveyards, and actually the founder, Oglethorpe, struck this deal with the natives who were on this land. He bought the land from them, but he promised not to disturb the death underneath. And it's also full of cemeteries, and some are really monumental. There are quite a few tours you can do around the city. There are obviously the historical walking tours, but there is also ghost tours, of course, the tour of the Mercer Williams house, which is the subject of this vlog really, and then the tour of the Bonaventure cemetery is at least the ones that I did. And I love them because all of them are storytelling. This time as well we went to see the Mercer Williams house, and actually the family still lives there. There are two few nieces, and that's why it's prohibited to take videos and photos inside the house. And since it was my first time coming here, I had always put off buying the book because I thought I could get it for free at the library or for cheap on Kindle, but I decided, no, I really want to buy it from this store, from exactly the Mercer Williams house, so finally I did it, and that's what I'm going to read in the second part of this vlog. And so that's it. Soon enough, it was time to go back to New York City. I was a bit sad because the weather was much worse up there, but yeah, in just a few hours we were back at the airport, a very cute airport, and we said goodbye to Savannah once more. Already in the first chapter there is so much I want to talk about, and the book opens with a physical description of Jim Williams. He was tall, above 50, with darkly handsome, almost sinister features, a neatly trimmed mustache, hair turning silver at the temples, and eyes so black they were like the tinted windows of a sleek limousine. He could see out, but you couldn't see in. And I remember when we were in Jim Williams' house and we were looking through the official books that the family put out. The official portrait of Jim Williams is him holding his cat, and the cat is referenced right away on page 2 of the book. Williams tapped a cigar ash into a silver ashtray. A dark grey tiger cat climbed up and settled in his lap. And here we have the description of the Mercer house, which sits on Monterey Square, as the author says, the most elegant of Savannah's many tree-shaded square. And about the Mercer house, he says it was an Italianate mansion of red brick with tall arched windows set off by ornate ironwork balconies. It sat back from the street, aloof behind its apron of lawn and its cast iron fence, not so much looking out on the square as presiding over it. So how did Jim Williams get all of his money? He was a successful dealer in antiques and a restorer of old houses. And this is something that whenever you do like tours in Savannah, walking tours around the city, and of course the tour of his house itself, they always hammer on this element that without him, all of these historical houses that have been saved would probably have been destroyed and some modern building would have been built there instead. What I enjoy most is living like an aristocrat without the burden of having to be one. It's only the trappings of aristocracy that I find worthwhile. The fine furniture, the paintings, the silver, the very things they have to sell when the money runs out, and it always does. Then all they're left with is their lovely manners. So already we understand that Jim Williams, he is new money, and the majority of like this fine society in Savannah is old money, and so he doesn't quite fit in, and there is a disconnect, even though he basically comes to rule the city with his parties. this book already because there are so many different characters and so many anecdotes, and it really paints the picture of what the city of Savannah was like. And this first anecdote about Jim Williams is very funny. It says that basically he bought this Cabbage Island, which was an island off the coast of Savannah, and everyone made fun of him because it was notorious that in this island there was nothing of value and you couldn't even build on it, so it was like a complete waste of money. But soon after Jim Williams bought it for $5,000 in 1966, they found phosphates on the Cabbage Island and the other coastal line, and so this was a resource that could be drilled. And suddenly the value of the island skyrocketed, and immediately Jim Williams sold it for $660,000, which is obviously an insane profit compared to the $5,000 he spent at the start. But people were still making fun of him because he sold too quickly, apparently. Little do they know that a few weeks later, the state of Georgia outlawed drilling along its coast, and therefore no more phosphate deal. But by that time, Williams had already sold, so he made a lot of money, and he demonstrated to have much more business acumen than the rest of the folks there. There are also some additional characters that pop up already in this first chapter, and there is this very funny lady who is she's called the Grand Dame of Savannah, and so she is an elderly lady with a lot of money, and apparently she bought some custom-made iron gates for her massive mansion from a local foundry. And when they arrived, she didn't like them and she sent them back to the foundry, said she wouldn't pay, they were not what she asked for, take them back. But because they were custom made, the foundry couldn't really sell them to anybody else, so they just had to sell them for scrap iron, basically, so for people to then melt and do something else with it. And again, little do we know, our Grand Dame ends up purchasing back these iron gates, but not at the original price of $1,900, but at the scrap iron price of $190. So she saved a lot of money, but she probably made a few enemies in the foundry. And then in a perfect Chekhov moment, the first chapter basically ends with the mention where Jim Williams tells this journalist that he has 4 guns in the house, one in a desk drawer in his office, one in the rear library, one in the hall, and another one in the living room. And as we know from Chekhov, if a gun appears in a book or in a story, at some point it's meant to shoot. And this brings us to the closure of the first chapter, where basically Williams is telling our friend John Berendt that he has 2 Christmas parties, and both are black tie. The first one is the famous one that gets written up in the newspaper, where the high and mighty of Savannah society go, and then there is another one that is only for gentlemen. And he asks John Berendt, which one do you want to come to? And he replies, the one least likely to involve gunfire. Because, you know, we're in the South. Okay, so I got to chapter 4. I have Here I have read 50 pages today, so I read the first 3 chapters and I really like it so far. And so far it's quite similar to the movie, but I'm enjoying all the other details, characters and stories. And unfortunately I won't be able to read anymore for today because we're leaving tomorrow. We're going to Italy to be with my family for a bit, so I'm actually going to have to finish packing now. But yeah, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed this vlog, half travel, half reading vlog, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao!